So when did you get the idea to start a podcast?
Yes, because things has been unfolding these days, and we're also trying to to survive in a way that we can also help the people, uh, especially the young people. Good afternoon, everybody. So, thank you for joining this interview section with uh, with our guest, and her name is Melissa Capps. She is a English, so American nationality, but he teach English. I think yeah, you've been teaching English in Rakhine for over 5 years, right?
Well, altogether, maybe 2 years, because I
2 years.
wasn't during COVID,
Mhm.
2019 and part of 2020.
So the topic of this today interview is strategies for enhancing English language proficiency. So what it means is how to navigate the common challenges in vocabulary and also motivation to learn and the cultural differences between the two languages that we, interacting with. So thank you very much, Melissa. And for the first time, if you have anything to say to our learner and the young people, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Esther, and thank you for all that you do to serve the youth in your community, to help with education and knowledge. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So my first interview question has to be with the vocabulary building techniques. So as the English learner, English learning English as a second language, we faced a lot of difficulties in vocabulary building. The how in enriching our vocabulary spectrum. So also like most people, including myself, back in the very young English learner, we face or we happen to memorize the vocabulary that we learn, that we see, and we try to use it in different sentences and contexts. But what I find what I found is that normally it doesn't work very effectively because if because we memorize them, so normally it fades out away. So what is the apart from that memorizing method, what will be effective, innovative methods to you know to make it this vocabulary building process more engaging and more fun and more interesting to to build the vocabulary that we as the English learner. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, so we shouldn't memorize words in isolation. So memorizing just one word with no context around it makes it very difficult to remember the word, the meaning, and how to use it. So when you're studying vocabulary, if you want to make a list of words to learn, like for a week or every day, if you're doing that, include another word or a few words with it. So have a phrase that includes the target vocabulary word. So you're not learning just the one word, but there's some context around it because
Um,
language is using context in order to help understand someone and what they're saying. We don't just listen to individual words. We listen to the whole sentence, the whole phrase. So I would encourage you to always memorize or to study vocabulary words in a phrase. Learn the words in a phrase with context around it
okay.
um, because it helps you know what words occur naturally together.
Mm,
And with the context, you can remember what you were hearing, what you were reading, and
mm,
when you think of the word, the context also, you can remember that. So you know when to use the word in the future, what kind of topic, what kind of situation to practice that. So, and I would say also connect your learning with the physical actions.
Physical action.
So you can't do this with every word, but with most concrete words, like if you wanted to remember the meaning for compassion. So you might, when you're listening to the word compassion, when you're reading it, you might like hug, so like you're hugging someone, or like make a heart. Because when we use more of our body to learn, we remember better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the more of your body that's involved in learning, the better. That's why it's also good to not stay seated for a long time if you're studying. Walk
Mhm.
around, stand up, because when you're moving, your mind is also able to remember more. It's more effective. Develop a habit of reading. So every
Mhm.
day you can set aside 10 or 15 minutes. And don't read the same kind of genres, different kinds. So you could read a
Okay.
short story.
Mhm.
So you could listen to a podcast, but mix up the resources and the materials that you use to learn words. And use authentic materials. Authentic materials are things that we as native speakers use when we're learning, when we're growing up and we're learning English. So not so much textbooks that are for English ESL learning, but
Mhm.
native stories, native fables, songs, videos, podcasts. Um, so the things that we as native English speakers use
Mhm.
are the best materials to learn vocabulary and to learn a new language with.
Okay.
And semantic mapping. That's another thing. I don't know if you're familiar with the semantic map. So it's just a word map.
Mapping.
Semantic mapping. So semantic means word. So you're making a word map. So on a
Oh.
piece of paper, you might draw a circle in the middle of the paper, and then
Mhm.
you have different lines. So, for example,
Oh.
the word fish. If you put the word fish in a circle, and then okay, you could try to find all of the different kinds of fish and write them down. And another area that has to do with fish, you can think of
Mhm.
all the different ways to eat fish. And
Okay.
that gives you a lot of new vocabulary words. And then you can think of, okay, what are the habitats? Where can fish live? And that will bring you more vocabulary. Um, and then you could also list idioms that use fish, like a fish out of water,
Mhm.
different idioms with the word fish, and then the different grammar forms. So a singular fish, a plural fish with es at the end, fishing, fish,
I see.
with
Uh-huh.
fish. So you can, they're all relative to the word fish.
Mhm.
So another, now in the US, in a lot of elementary schools, or high schools too, that's what they're using is semantic mapping. So you can, with one word,
Mhm.
then you can see all of the other words that can be related to that, and it will help you remember.
Thank you very much for this topic about vocabulary building technique. So we learned a lot about semantic mapping, studying the words with context, phrases, and like physical activities, and more about it's also help brains have help send signals to the brain that we're learning something. So that is really great. So I think as also we may have some other participant, who has been on the track of becoming a English teacher. So they may also learn about the methods that they can teach to their students.
I forgot to mention, whenever you're using a text or you're listening, you want to choose something that's not too difficult, that doesn't have too many unknown words, because then You want to choose something that has just maybe you understand 80% of what you're listening to or what you're reading, but you just want a small percent of new words so that you're not overwhelmed and you're not having to
Oh, I see. I see.
do too
It
much.
hap- it happened to me all the times because yeah, I try to read it, read a books, so much higher than my level back in my days of English learning, intensive English learning. So, it depressed me all the time. So like, um, what's just turning just I just turned the page one, and I don't know a thing. So so that kind of stuff, it deep down, it grabs me down to depressions, and the deep, my motivation has been way below before that. So that's really interesting and a very helpful um, tips, I think, because most of the young people, maybe some people not, maybe most of the people, they tends to try something much a little bit higher than that. Maybe they just don't know where to start. That is why they just grab a book and just read it out, and they may conclude that themselves that English is very hard, so I shouldn't do that.
I would say also to yeah the real life, maybe connect with a pen pal
Hmm.
online so that
Hmm.
and build a relationship with a native speaker on Facebook or in a chat room, and then I'm sure they'll be very happy to help you with any.
Yes, yes. Yes, that's very interesting, because we've never thought about connecting with the native speaker or English, the English person, because mostly we have a culture like going heading out to someone who is totally strange, totally stranger to them, and and asking them to have a conversation that's very not our culture. So that maybe as the English, as a young English learner, maybe they have that kind of anxiety, not anxiety, sorry, nervousness, and also I think not brave enough to do it. So um, yes. So maybe we may need some kind of platform so that they can meet, or they can see and chat with the English native speaker. So maybe that's an idea, so that we can maybe that's an idea of building a platform for the young person to learn English, to meet with the native speaker. Maybe I can try it out in the future. We have a culture that, mostly not culture, but at the time English is very, how do I say, very popular, so that most of the parents, they usually urge their children to go to the English classes, and learn English, or grammar class, or summer class, that kind of. So it's very usual, but they do not have motivation, and they don't know why they were studying English. So also, in the long run, they happen to know, wow, in building vocabulary, and sentence structures, and speaking, listening, all that difficulty come across in their learning path, so that most of the people, they the motivation to learn English has been you know uh, going down. So in that case, what will be the most effective methods of learning in real world application of language for the learners? So maybe that has to be engaging, and also like fun, because if motivations and commitment goes down, nothing happens again. So what can we do to